Those are some very odd looking clouds up there, are they not? I tilled the entire garden you see behind me with a shovel in less than an hour and a half's total work time. 3 rows are already planted. Three more rows to plant. I'm going to do my best to stay out of your view there while I explain what I believe is a major breakthrough discovery in potentially communicating with him, her, it, or they. It is in regard to language. It's not a new language per se, but it is a previously, before now, which is what previously means, undefined and unspecified, which is what undefined means, language, which is a form of verbal and written communication. Once again, I do not take credit for this potentially major discovery. I give all credit to my 9-year-old son who's in 3rd grade for pointing out that which I could not see myself. Unlike, potentially, something that may or may not be in this area. Keep your eyes peeled. So, excuse me, but notice how I did cough into my elbow. During these times of pandemic, please be sure to wash your hands regularly, especially after using the restroom and after being out in public places. And if you do cough or sneeze, go with the old elbow because in the event if you later do lapse and touch your face, you're not doing so with your elbow. That would just be crazy. Now, I'm taking a break from gardening. As of this recording, it's mid-March. And as you can tell by watching my 6, the woods are very much alive. Yeah. As are the fields. Man, look at that. Whatever, you get the point. Keep getting my 6. So, gave you that little intro to show you what's going on in the garden. My beautiful bride Dearly, aka Giggly Girl, and our darling son are getting ready to come out and bust up those clumps and put some more seeds in those 3 rows that need to be planted. And I'm up here planting some more bare rooted, these are honey locusts. I planted about 50 trees yesterday, going to do about 50 more today. But I'm taking a break from all this gardening and tree planting to describe this new language my son recently pointed out to me, and we're going to attempt to communicate with him, her, it, or they with this new language. Now, my son's always catching the stuff I missed, like the way that stump or fence post back here were moving in the pictures on the phone there a couple months ago. But now, through our nightly reading, which we always read before we go to bed, even though he's a very good reader, but this is one of the reasons why, is because from infancy we've read at night. I'm not plugging this series of children's books, but I'm going to tell you how this new discovery of this new language came about. And wouldn't you know it, the price tag is over the name of the series. But it's a series of books called My Weird School. If anybody's got grade school children, you're probably familiar with these. They're fun books to read, written by an author named Dan Gutman, or Gutman. I'm probably mispronouncing his name. My name is like the only one. It just got strangely silent. But it sounds like something's walking right around me. The wind stopped, but I can't see anything. Perhaps him, her, it, or they have moved closer to listen better, to see if we are onto something. So anyway, my son could easily read these on his own, but we like to do it together. It's a form of bonding. We've read, half a dozen or so of these. There's a ton of books in the series. But I was reading here a short while ago from one of these books, and my son, I guess, in school has learned all about words written in italics, like that one. You guys know what italics are. Well, when I was reading the book, he pointed out to me how I was doing it wrong in that I was not emphasizing the words written in italics. Like, for instance, here in this sentence, the word your is written in italics. I would just simply say the same thing you're doing here. He'd say, Dad, you're doing it wrong. And he pointed it out so frequently that I started becoming obnoxious in my emphasis of the italicized words. So I would read it as such. The same thing you're doing here. And then, of course, he got quite a laugh out of that. It's like it gets eerily quiet. But then I hear something sneaking up on us. But I see no movement with my naked eye. But interestingly, that did seem to happen as a direct response to this new language. How is this a new language, you're saying? Crazy Lake? Well, that's just crazy. That's just more of your craziness. Well, if you were to say that properly with italics, if you were to speak in italics, which is this new form of language, it might sound more like this. Why, Crazy Lake, we know this is just more of your craziness. I think it's working. You thought I lost those hillbilly teeth, didn't you? Well, I did. It's not the original set that I found in the back of my 3rd times previously owned vehicle that I used to use. I had to buy these from a gas station. Keep getting my 6. So at any rate, my son is so smart. He points out to me, he says, hey, Dad, you know how you're writing that book about the people you meet in America? It's been this ongoing thing about, it keeps getting longer and longer. It started out as a book about culture shock, about having gone through culture shock when I first moved to Asia for 2 years, finally accepting and adapting to that culture, living there for another 4 years, then coming back to my home country and going through reverse culture shock because I'd forgotten about all the silly nuances here as far as culture goes, and I actually had to relearn so much of the culture. So the book started out as The People You'll Meet in America, and I've talked about it before. It's like that one guy that no matter how cold it is, you'll always see running without a shirt. I mean, if you live especially in university towns or in a larger city where there's a lot of active, healthy people that exercise regularly, it can be 20 degrees out. And yet when you go downtown, you're going to see that one guy is wearing his running tights. He's got his toboggan on and his scarf and his gloves, but he's not wearing a shirt because he wants everybody to see how buff he is. That kind of thing. And I'd come up with like a dozen of these things. That's why the book is still ongoing. It's just getting longer and longer. My son says, you know, Dad, there's actually people that talk like this. I'm like, you mean people that speak in italics? He goes, yeah. And he mentions somebody we know, and I'm not going to say names. And I thought, wow, you have a really good point. We know several people that speak in italics. I mean, you've seen it. You go out, you see these folks. A lot of times they live in the same subdivision. They really don't go out of their way to see each other at home, which isn't really a bad thing. I don't do that sort of thing either. But when you see them at public events and they greet each other, it's almost like, this is a PG rated channel, so I won't use the word, but the word is a term that would describe something in which every muscle in your body quivers at once. It's like, oh, insert neighbor's name here. And then they give these overacting hugs. It's like they hadn't seen each other in 1,000 years, and the last time they did, it's because they were both discovering the cure to insanity. So anyway, that's an example of people who speak in italics. If I were to pin, like, I don't like to pigeonhole anything, but you'll often see it among highly educated or above average and above higher than average educated, upper middle class professional types, like in the spouses of these folks, like financial planners. I used to be a financial planner, okay? So I'm kind of knocking myself here in my past life. I used to see it so much then. You'd go to these you go to these quarterly meetings, which were like these big cheerleading rah-rah sessions, and the wives especially, well, they haven't seen each other in 3 months. They don't care about each other, but man, you wouldn't know when they ran into each other because they'd just be drooling all over themselves and each other in their overacting greetings. Yeah, I haven't seen you since 1,000 years ago when we discovered the cure for insanity. Well, those ladies obviously didn't share that cure with you, crazy lake. I never said they did. I don't know, but, they can barely even remember each other's names. It's all for show, in my humble opinion. And this after my beautiful bride, who comes from a completely different culture where this is not done at all. In her culture, if people don't have a direct reason to be dealing with you, if they don't need something from you or you don't need something from them, they don't even say hi when they pass on the street, even if they live 2 doors down from each other. That took me some time to get used to, but after a while I learned to appreciate that, because if I'm not that important to you 99.9% of the rest of the time, why are you going to act like I am when we're out in public and there's 200 people around us? It's for show. Okay, so in my wife's culture in the Philippines, they call it OA, overacting. And I thought, that's a pretty good term for it, because why are all these people being financial planners and marrying financial planners? They should have gone to Hollywood. I mean, that's some good acting. So anyway, I hope I've done my best to describe this new language. People who speak in italics. Now, here's the deal. Is this language reserved merely for Homo sapien type people persons, or potentially could our closely related, bipedal, upright walking, primatal, Homo something, sapien, whatever, cousins, also known as he, she, it, or they, aka potentially Bigfoot, Sasquatch, speak in italics as well. The gray squirrels have begun going crazy around me.
Maybe that means your form of insanity is kitty, crazy like. You are dirty as a squirrel turd.
We get that a lot in the comments section. So let's try this. Let's put this newly discovered language into action. Now, we have already announced our presence with one of our newer Did you hear that? One of our newer potential Bigfoot Sasquatching research tools, the triangle, being pointed out here with one of our other newer potential Bigfoot Sasquatch researching tools, the green arrow. But for specific testing purposes of this newest potential Bigfoot Sasquatch research method, the language of italics, let's announce our presence once more. Now, in the past, as we've been letting our intentions be known to him, her, it, or they in multiple normal languages, such as English, in which we might say, hey, potential Bigfoot Sasquatch, we don't mean you any harm. Or in which we might, in Tagalog, let them know we're not scared of them. Wala hadlak ko, kapre. Or maybe in Visayan, we might let them know that our home is their home and they're welcome to come into our home at any time they would like. Ako balay, imu balay. Salud sa ako balay. Imu, salud sa ako balay. Or maybe in Kurdish, we've let them know how beautiful we believe they are. Chawani, Boshi. How many languages do I speak? I can't remember, but I just kind of came up with a new one called the language of italics. And we're going to let him, her, it, or they know that we would be happy if they would join us in person here in living peacefully together on our homestead. Hey, potential Bigfoot Sasquatch, we would love it if you would peacefully join us in living together here on our homestead. It's going to take some practice, but going forward, don't be surprised if at times when it appears as if I may be speaking in tongues, that I might also appear to be speaking in italics. thank you for joining us for another episode of the PBS. The Potential Bigfoot Sasquatch Show. Casabodka? Buwang lalaki ko? Delete.